Sometimes, the truest test of character comes when no one is watching, and sometimes, the richest heart doesn't wear designer clothes or live in a mansion, it wears humility. When an aging billionaire decided to disguise himself as a poor gatekeeper just to test his son's fiancée, he thought he'd seen it all. But what that young woman did next left him standing in tears at the very gates of his own estate. Hey friends, welcome back to Whispers of Goodness, where real stories remind us that kindness is still alive in this world. If you love heart-touching tales that make you believe in humanity again, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. And in the comments, tell us what kindness means to you. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Richard Harrison was a man who had everything most people could only dream of. He built an empire from scratch: luxury hotels, tech investments, private jets. To the world, he was a symbol of success. But after his wife passed away, his mansion, though grand, felt cold and silent. The only thing that truly mattered to him now was his son, Michael. Michael was 27, kind-hearted, but raised in comfort. Richard worried that his son's wealth had blinded him to life's realities, and more importantly, to the kind of people who might be drawn to him for the wrong reasons. When Michael announced his engagement to a woman named Emily, Richard felt both joy and unease. Emily was beautiful, charming, and polite. But Richard had seen too many smiles that hid selfish hearts. He didn't want his son to marry someone who loved the fortune more than the man. So, he decided to test her, not with money or gifts, but with something far more powerful: a test of kindness. A week before Emily was supposed to move into the mansion, Richard told his staff he would be away on a business trip. In truth, he spent that week transforming himself. He grew out his gray beard, put on old, faded work clothes, and borrowed the name Mr. Ray. He positioned himself as the new gatekeeper, the man who opened the grand iron gates of the Harrison estate. No one except his trusted manager knew who he really was. The day Emily arrived, her white car rolled up the driveway, sunlight glinting off its polished hood. She stepped out gracefully in a red dress, holding a bouquet of flowers for Michael's late mother. When she reached the gate, Mr. Ray hurried over to open it. But as he did, he tripped slightly, his old shoes catching on the gravel. The flowers in Emily's hands almost slipped, and the sound startled her. "Oh. I'm so sorry, ma'am," he said softly, steadying himself. Emily looked at him. His clothes were dusty, his hands calloused, but instead of scolding him or walking past, she smiled gently. "Are you okay?" That looked like it hurt. Richard blinked, momentarily speechless. I'm fine, miss. Just clumsy today." She laughed lightly. "We all have those days. Here, let me help with the gate." And together, they pushed it open. That small act, so ordinary, so human, touched something deep in Richard's heart. Over the next few days, Mr. Ray kept working quietly. He swept the drive, watered the plants, opened the gates. Emily often stopped to talk to him. Sometimes she brought him a cup of lemonade on hot afternoons. Sometimes she'd hand him a sandwich wrapped neatly in a napkin, saying, "You must get hungry out here." Each time, she smiled with genuine warmth, not the kind you put on for show, but the kind that makes a person feel seen. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the trees, Emily found him sitting on a bench near the gates, rubbing his knee. "Mr. Ray, are you all right?" she asked. "Just old bones, miss," he said. "They ache when it's about to rain." Without hesitation, Emily sat beside him, reached into her bag, and handed him a small bottle of pain cream. "My grandma swore by this," she said with a grin. "Try it. It helps." Richard stared at her, not as a billionaire or a father, but as a man reminded of what kindness really looked like. A few days later, the real test came. It was Michael's birthday, and the mansion was filled with guests, laughter, and music. The staff had been told that the gatekeeper would stay outside during the event, but as the evening wore on, dark clouds rolled in. Rain began to pour, heavy, relentless. Richard, still in disguise, kept standing near the gate, soaked to the bone, ensuring every guest's car passed safely through the window. He saw Emily glance toward him several times. Then, suddenly, she disappeared from the party. Moments later, the gate creaked open. There she was, holding an umbrella, her red dress clinging to her in the rain. "Mr. Ray," she shouted over the storm. "You'll get sick out here." "I'm fine, miss," he insisted. "You should go back inside." But she didn't move. Instead, she walked over, held the umbrella above him, and said, "No one deserves to stand alone in the rain." For a long moment, they stood there, the billionaire in disguise, and the woman who didn't know she was being tested. Richard could barely speak. "You have a kind heart," he said softly. Emily smiled. Everyone deserves kindness, Mr. Ray. You never know what someone's going through. The next morning, Richard decided it was time. He asked his son to invite Emily for breakfast in the garden. When she arrived, she noticed Mr. Ray wasn't at the gate. Instead, standing beside Michael, in a crisp suit and familiar smile, was him. Her eyes widened. Mr. Ray. He nodded gently. My name isn't Ray. It's Richard Harrison. Michael's father. For a long second, she just stared, realization flooding her face. You were testing me, she whispered. Richard looked down, guilt softening his expression. I was. And I'm sorry if that hurt you. I just needed to see who my son was truly marrying. Not through words, but through actions. Emily took a deep breath, processing everything. Then she smiled, not angry, but understanding. I guess I should be flattered, she said quietly. And? I'm glad I passed. Richard's voice trembled as he replied, You didn't just pass, Emily. You reminded me that goodness still exists, that my wife's belief in simple kindness wasn't lost in this world. Tears filled his eyes. You didn't treat me like a poor man. You treated me like a person. Emily reached out and gently held his hand. Because that's what you are, Mr. Harrison. Everyone deserves respect, no matter what they wear, or where they stand. From that day on, Richard's heart felt lighter. The mansion no longer felt so empty. Emily became like the daughter he never had to. Kind, humble, and genuine. Their wedding, months later, wasn't the grand display of wealth most expected. Instead, it was simple, intimate, filled with laughter and love. At the ceremony, Richard gave a short speech. His voice broke as he said, True wealth isn't found in bank accounts or business deals. It's found in hearts that give without expecting anything back. Emily reminded me of that, and I hope everyone here never forgets, kindness costs nothing, but it can change everything. The crowd stood and applauded, many with tears in their eyes. Even Michael, who had been skeptical of his father's little test, hugged him tightly afterward. Life has a way of showing us what really matters, and it's never the cars, the clothes, or the money. It's the moments when we choose to be kind, even when no one's watching. Richard's test began as a trick but ended as a lesson, not just for Emily, but for himself. Because sometimes, when you look for goodness in others, you rediscover it in your own heart too. So, next time you pass a stranger, open a door for someone, or share a smile, remember, even the smallest act of kindness can echo further than you'll ever know. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Whispers of Goodness, and tell us in the comments, when was the last time someone's kindness changed your day? Because one good whisper can change the world.